Thank you so much, and thank you to Bill for inviting me this evening to recognise the bravery of so many people. If I can just take a moment, I want to say thank you to all the Uyghur survivors and the Uyghur activists who are giving their testimonies to us and many governments around the world, time again and again and again, to expose the genocide that is taking place against their people. An 85% drop in birth rate amongst Uyghur women down to the forced sterilisation. Hundreds of thousands of Uyghur children are removed from their parents by the Chinese state to wash their brains clean from their Uyghur language, their Uyghur identity and their faith. And of course, millions of Uyghur men and women incarcerated. And before they end their lives or before they are destroyed, they end up producing products which end up on our shelves here in the UK and around the world, all tainted by Uyghur slave blood, and many companies continue to make the profit on the back of that, so we mustn't forget the cause. I want to say thank you to IPAC who are here today and Luke de Pulford for all the work that he has done. The work that I do in Parliament is also takes place in the House of Lords, and I can see Serene, I can see Helena Kennedy, I can see Lord Alton, I can see Stephen here as well, and Luke de Pulford, so it's a cross-party effort, and we will continue to do as much work as we can here in the UK. But I am here to present an award to a very brave man, to Peter Dahlin. This award is for the Outstanding Human Rights Activist 2021. Peter was the co-founder and director of the Chinese Urgent Action Working Group, China Action, very small term for that there. China Action provided assistance to uncertified barefoot lawyers who provide legal aid in rural areas to people who needed it most. Peter was based out in Beijing from 2009 to 2016. But he came under huge pressure. China Action was coming under pressure from the Chinese government, and on the 4th of January 2016, Peter was arrested by the Chinese authorities as he was about to leave the country via Hong Kong. He was held in a black prison in Beijing, and during this time he was deprived of sleep and questioned with a communication enhancement machine. He was denied any access to any support, any ability to exercise, and he was put in a suicide-proof room. Peter spent 23 days in this black prison and later appeared on Chinese state television. And what many of us who understand this will accept that it was a forced confession, but of course the Chinese wanted to point out that he was hurting their state and their people. But he didn't lose his resolve, and he continued to campaign. And then, on his departure from China, he relaunched China Action as a new project, Safeguard Defenders, and the organisation has carried on doing fantastic work, supporting the survival of civil society and human rights. And Peter, remarkably, has managed to get the CGTN Chinese state media channel banned in the UK. And many of you might have heard about this channel because recently it published a fake email from the disappeared tennis player Peng Shui, and he's done huge work in getting that channel banned, and he's continued to be incredibly brave considering the amount of abuse and torture that he has suffered. So can I please ask onto the stage Peter Dahlin.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. For roughly 10 years, I was living in Beijing, and to be able to run an NGO in Beijing, you require complete anonymity. You have to hide. I lived with an assumed name. My friends did not really know what I was doing. And I was quite well suited for it because I think my worst dread is probably public speaking. So hiding in the shadows fitted me like a fish in water. We often think about China as a closed society, a society where it's impossible to operate, but through our work, we've trained some 3,000 lawyers. We've launched over 1,000 public interest litigation lawsuits. We provided an undisclosed amount of support to human rights defenders in need of legal aid, torture rehabilitation, financial aid, and we've collected some of the most cutting edge and frankly remarkable research materials on what's happening in China, so that shows clearly that it is possible to continue to work in a place like China, even though it requires special considerations. To achieve all of this, I have roughly 30 staff and local partners who have either been imprisoned or simply disappeared. They have all one thing in common: they've been tortured in possibly every conceivable way, and not just disappeared for a day or two. The co-founder of my original NGO was missing for 4 years, and the list of torture that he has gone through is quite remarkable. So it comes at a cost, certainly. I myself was made a star briefly for roughly 600 million people on Chinese TV after I was held at a secret prison. A new type of imprisonment instituted under Xi Jinping, which is expanding rapidly, that is a form of enforced disappearance, where people are kept incommunicado. And we're not talking about 2 or 3 people or 200 or 300, we're talking about tens upon tens of thousands. The last year, it expanded by roughly 200%, and it's spreading like wildfire. After that, and after seeing a great many other people put on TV as tools of political terror, we decided to launch a campaign against CGTN, the English language Chinese state television, and CCTV, their parent company. With 14,000 staff, it is the largest media organization in the world. These televised confessions tend to occur not just before trial, but before even formal arrest. Most people are tortured for 2, 3, up to 6 months before they agree. Some of them refuse, like for example, lawyer Wang Yu, and instead they took in her son, and tortured him on camera and then showed it to her, and only then did she agree to make one of these scripted, forced, televised confessions. Now, we're involved in a great many campaigns, and like many human rights NGOs, we try to raise awareness about the issues and raise the political cost of perpetrating these violations. But with this particular campaign, we managed something quite unique. We managed to stop the violation. There are no more forced televised confessions coming out of China. There are no more forced televised confessions of lawyers and journalists in China. The reason we managed to achieve this is that we realized there was a point of leverage, and this is something that can be hard to find in a campaign. We knew that Chinese television, more than anything, wants to have an international TV channel for soft propaganda. And if they were put between a choice between having that and airing these forced televised confessions, we knew what they would choose. And instead of going the political route, we decided to launch complaints in a great many countries under local TV regulations. And of course, here in the UK, it led to them being taken off the air. They've also been taken off the air in Norway, in Sweden, in Australia. Last week, the Senate and congressional leadership in the US Congress has approached the FCC, the Ofcom of the United States, to launch a full investigation. There are investigations ongoing in France and in Canada. So we certainly are hoping to exact more damages to the TV station to make sure they do not resume this practice. But already at this point, we have stopped it. And for all the campaigns we're involved in, I think that's our proudest moment. And one man who's actually made all of this possible is sitting right there, Simon Chung from Hong Kong. His was the last confession that they dared to air internationally and in China, and it was the nail in their own coffin. A coffin largely built together with another British person who is not here tonight, Peter Humphrey, a former journalist who was almost brought to death in a Shanghai detention center. So along the way, we've had a lot of help from a lot of victims, including in China, who have been willing to speak out about this, despite the fact that they could disappear yet again just for speaking out. So it's been quite a ride, and we have barely even begun. So thank you, and again, like everyone else, Bill, not thank you for tonight, not thank you for me standing up here, but rather the fact that you started this just 6, 7 years ago and you managed to create the November tradition in just a few years. It's inspiring, to say the least. So thank you, everyone.